Good evening, guys. I am Josh. He is Graham. We are doing a Dog Sports Live spring preview, our last one before G Day on Saturday. We're talking about the running backs. Clearly, we pride ourselves on being RBU, and we've got a lot of talent in the backfield. And when we did our wide receiver show and got a little feedback on Senator Lutarski's Get the Picture blog, that one of the guys noted that we touted that as a wide receiver room is the most talented, but they took issue with that and thought our running backs were the most talented running room, if you will, on the offense. And he's probably right, especially now that we're a little we're lighter now with the stud George Pickens out potentially. So Graham, you have done some number crunching, and we'll have a few plays. We're going to be lighter on the plays because I think you guys know these, but we're going to share some blocking, some elusiveness stats, and just some stuff that maybe some that you are not aware of. So you'll be ready to watch the running backs on Saturday and just see what they're doing and who gets carries. Graham, take us off.
Yeah, so running backs, Georgia, I mean, 2 words, or I guess 3 words that are synonymous with each other. I think it's been a really interesting offseason in terms of how I think the running back room has been covered by just sort of the Georgia media and the college football media at large. Zamir White, if you look at just who got carries last year, he was really the workhorse on this team. I mean, he had almost 100 more carries than anyone else on the roster. And all I've heard about this offseason has been Kenny McIntosh and Kendall Milton. And for good reason. They're both very talented backs. But I think that, we have some stats and some info from PFF and some EPA stuff that kind of points to, Zamir White is the number 1 running back for a reason.
Yeah, I've got the running back room stat up here with our depth chart and some of the stats. I've got that famous, or I'm trying to make it famous, EPA, which talks about just sort of the value of each play. And you can see that Cook was pretty explosive running back but just 45 carries. So he's not going to carry the ball 15 to 20 times for you. But Zamir White is, and we'll show this a little later, compared to some of the SEC running backs in 2020, had a very stout 236 EPA and a 5.6 average on 143 carries. So, 143 carries is actually it's a luxury that we can spell these backs. We can give them some breaks, but Zamir White is clearly the leader in that room. And McIntosh and Milton have shown great flashes and brilliance, and we're going to talk about some of that too. But I agree with you. I think White is the guy. And
I mean, I think the thing to remember about Zamir White is he really finally got healthy towards the end of last year. And that was when we started to see him look like the number 1 running back in the country that he was coming out of high school. His explosiveness kind of came back earlier, but the balance and the cuts weren't quite all the way there, which I think is a testament to how talented he is, right? That he was still getting the majority of the carries despite not being all the way back from that ACL injury. But you remember with Chubb, we had him on the field for a year and a half post the ACL tear at Tennessee. And then sort of right there at the end of 2017, the end of his senior year, that Kentucky game towards the end of that year was sort of the first time we saw him really look like that guy that he had looked like as a freshman and early in his sophomore season, where he was running away from defenders and had that explosion back. And I feel like Zamir, we saw a lot of the same stuff with him towards the end of last season. That run that he had against Cincinnati in the Peach Bowl, that was, not a big play, but he broke 3 or 4 tackles on that play and was, moving laterally. And I don't know. I get defensive over Zamir just because I've seen tweets this offseason of people being Zamir White is the running back that Kendall Milton is the running back that I was told Zamir White was supposed to be. And it's Kendall Milton's great. He's extremely talented, and I think he's the future of that running back room for sure. But he also hasn't gone through 2 ACL tears. And I think, we're really lucky to have Zamir White on this team.
I've got White stats up by week showing some of that EPA data and stuff. You can see that in the Missouri game he was super efficient, but he can be efficient and can be explosive, like you say, and he can also be strong and get you the yards that you need to get. Like the Kentucky game, his EPA is 0.129, which is one of his lower ones in the season, but he had 26 carries, 136 yards for over 5 yards a carry. That tells you right there that Kirby when you got to get the tough yards, and those were tough yards in that Kentucky game because we were not doing anything through the air. He'll get them for you, but he can also be explosive. I mean, that Missouri game, he looked so good and so strong and was just getting out on the edge and just, he had some zip and some speed. And I agree. He came on really strong at the end of the year. So I couldn't agree more.
And what surprised me is you may have shown this chart already, but that elusiveness rating graph from PFF, like you think of McIntosh and Cook as kind of the elusive backs on this team, but he compares pretty favorably to James Cook with that elusiveness rating. And yeah, I mean, he had a ton more attempts, but it's like he forced a lot of missed tackles, and he does his fair share of like getting around guys. I mean, Kenny McIntosh, right, is one of the most elusive rated players in all of college football. But
on just 47 attempts, and yeah,
right,
and so that tells you that the more attempts you get, that rating is going to go down.
Right.
There's no way to filter those out. Like a lot of the analytics guys will actually filter that garbage time out. So I mean, if you think about it, Kenny McIntosh and Edwards especially, and to a lesser extent early in the year when Milton was healthy. And Milton was getting there was important carries, but yeah, I mean Zamir White and James Cook are in there when second and third quarter and games on the line and stuff. They're not getting garbage yards out of that. And
yeah, totally. I mean, I think the thing that I really want to kind of talk about with James Cook is like so he's coming off his best season as a Bulldog by far, right? But I think he's finally kind of the right weight. For a long time he was heavy, and then he's kind of lightened back up. He came in really skinny, but we just saw him bust through the line with a lot better explosion and finally break some long runs against Missouri and South Carolina. But the thing that I figured out when I was reading this, or I'm sorry, when we were researching this episode, was just the amount of promise, I guess you could say, that he brings to the passing game is really significant. I mean, we saw him have 16 catches on just 19 targets last year, but he took some of those targets. I mean, he had 101 yards against Alabama, and that was a big play, but it's like he's catching some of these balls and, doing a lot with them. But more than anything, the thing that stood out to me was just that he averaged 10.95 yards per a touch last season.
Yeah, awesome.
James Cook did, which is astounding.
Yeah, that's game changer.
Yeah. So you've got some clips of...
Yeah, I'm just kind of showing some highlights of the running backs, kind of each guy's big run and stuff. I think this is McIntosh right here in the South Carolina game. Or is that Milton?
Yeah.
That's McIntosh.
No, that's McIntosh.
And just kind of showing, what we got back there. I mean, all these guys had big runs, several of them big, long touchdown runs. I mean, you talk about explosive runs. Look at that. Come on. That's Cook between the tackles with this. Come on. He got a lot more carries between the tackles this year, and it seemed like the offensive coaching staff wanted to give him more of those touches and not just try to put him in space and all that stuff. He can get you the yards, whatever yards you need, he'll get them for you.
Totally. No, and I mean, I think the thing with James Cook next year, right, is like, I mean, truthfully, I don't know. I mean, he's a really good back, but I don't know that he'll necessarily be like always that first or second option in terms of running the ball. But I think because of the weapon that he is in the passing game, and because he understands the offense and he has proven himself to be very good in pass protection, I just don't see him coming off the field that much. Now, I think that like we might see him line up in the slot sometimes. I think we might see him, in two back sets, but I think that we're going to see James Cook on the field a lot. I think we'll see him get as many snaps as anyone in the running back room, but I don't know that we'll necessarily see him get as many carries as anyone in the running back room, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I've got the breakaway plays. I don't know if you want to kind of talk about that in relation to Cook, but he had 4 breakaway runs of 15 plus yards and just 45 carries. So
Yeah.
he's a carry. He's getting the ball a third of those touches that Zamir is getting, but he's getting half the breakaways. With a good percentage on those and 105 yards and 9 runs of 15 plus yards. I mean, he could be special this year.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I think that this is what he came back for, right? And like I know that his mom in particular was kind of critical of the coaching staff at times last season, and sort of felt like he wasn't getting as many carries as he should. And I think Georgia probably laid out a really good plan to him after the season of like what they want to do with his talent this year. And playing under a guy like Todd Monken, like everyone's going to eat to a certain extent, right? Like he has the ability to scheme up plays that are going to fit everyone's skill set and really let them shine. And I think there's a reason why like he came back to Georgia for another season instead of, maybe being a grad transfer kind of situation or using that free COVID year to go somewhere else. So like, I think there's a lot to be excited about with him in the coming season. Let's talk a little bit about Kendall Milton, because like I see Milton. What surprised me, honestly, I mean, I know he was hurt, but Milton actually got he had the least amount of rushing attempts of anybody on the team last year, that's a running back. And I know he was injured for a few games, but like, I feel like because we saw him make so many kind of memorable runs like that Tennessee game, or even in the Auburn game.
The Alabama game.
Yeah. It feels like he touched the ball a lot more than, 33 times. I kind of see Milton though as like probably the guy that's most likely to sort of
take the next jump. Yeah, the leap to being a feature quality back.
Yeah, I see him as a true 3-down back, which not to put any knocks on Kenny McIntosh or James Cook, but like I think Cook and McIntosh are a little more well suited to split out and catch passes and go into the slot and do some different things with their elusiveness and speed. And I think Milton is probably more in that Zamir White mold where like he is a bell cow kind of back that, has that body to handle 20 or 25 carries a game. And for a freshman in particular, he held up very well in pass blocking last season. So, I think it'll be kind of interesting to see sort of how the share of the carries shake out if he can sort of, maybe not like we were talking about. Like I think Cook is going to have as many snaps as anyone, but maybe lined up in different positions. But if it'll be interesting to see if Milton can kind of move into that spot where he's sort of, getting the second most carries on the team behind Zeus.
Yeah, I've got the some of the PFF stuff you dug up, and I mean Milton had 123 yards after contact, and a 73.5 grade PFF grade, 11 missed tackles. I mean he's definitely an SEC back, and he's coming in as a true freshman. So it's a deep room, and we've got everything we need: young talent that's ready to step up, and also veteran leadership from Cook and Zamir.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
And you want to pivot into McIntosh?
Yeah, let's talk about McIntosh, because I think McIntosh is, like we talked about, elusive rating wise. He's not just as good as anyone on the Georgia football team. He's about as good as anyone in college football. I'm going
to put up your Twitter feed while you talk, and just is it interesting. If you didn't see it back a few weeks ago, Graham put out there, sort of some of these backs behind Zamir White, and some of the reasons they are maybe not ready to take over Zamir White, and everyone loves the backup running back, but he showed some good pass blocking and some things that he's definitely got to get better at. So take it away here.
Yeah, so exactly. I mean, McIntosh, when he gets the ball in his hands, he's phenomenal. But like we said, coming on the air, like I've seen a lot of pundits kind of predict that McIntosh is going to take carries away from Cook and Zeus. And if you go and look at the film of him against Cincinnati, he got exposed pretty badly in pass protection.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's kind of it's going to be interesting to see if he can improve that skill set. And it sucks for him that he got injured because he's not necessarily. No, you're good. It's just like he's not shown that he can be on the field lined up at running back in passing downs without being a liability. And like that play that you're showing right there, he misses a block again. He struggles in pass protection, later on. I mean, we have this is Zamir right here in a good, pass pro. He does a really good job of picking that up. But when you have McIntosh on the field, like, that those are big negative plays. Like one is a sack, one is a sack fumble. He was kind of, I think, on the field for one of the interceptions that JT threw, which is on Daniels to get rid of the ball and eat that play. But like, if he is under pressure, nothing goes right. So it's just, Georgia's got to break in a young offensive line this year. And like, there's a lot of unknowns at that position. And we know that Todd Monken, going back to the work we did last summer, like he uses those kind of H-back type players. He uses tight ends and running backs to be extra blockers and to sometimes sort of function like a fullback and be a lead blocker in the running game. So we need to see more out of McIntosh and his pass blocking abilities for him to be a guy that can stay on the field, because if he comes in the game and on first down, he breaks a long run and then Monken wants to go tempo and get up to the line quick and run some pass plays, I don't know that Monken's totally comfortable doing that with McIntosh on the field because he hasn't shown that he can pass block well. So it's like for him to become that kind of 3-down back that's going to steal a lion's share of the carries from someone else, he's going to have to improve that, just because situationally as an offensive coordinator, you can't trust him to be on the field in a lot of different scenarios right now.
And he's banged up. He's not even practicing this spring. So unfortunately he's not getting reps.
Sucks.
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, he that's going to be hard for him to make up, and especially when he needs to improve, and you got to show improvement. You got to keep, you listen to the press conferences, and Kirby wants to keep getting better every day, and it's not his fault. I mean, obviously he can't be on the field, but there needs to be some improvement there. Clear. I'm showing the pass blocking grades, and it's pretty, on 10 snaps and pass pro, he gave up 2 pressures and only pass blocked successfully on 11% of them, or whatever that is. It's maybe that's one good pass block out of that.
Right, exactly. And I mean, I think I forget the exact statistic, and I apologize for not having it in front of me, but like, just if you go and look at the number of snaps that he had last year on pass plays, when he was actually lined up at running back, when he was lined up in a position to block somebody, it's like very few. It's just a handful of snaps. And
yeah, I think we just showed it. It was 10 snaps, 2 pressures. So
yeah. So, but I think I'm not sure if those PFF pass blocking numbers are actually like,
oh, I got you.
I think those are just situations where he's actually asked to pass block. Like, you know what I'm saying? But just in terms of where he's lined up for snaps, like normally if he's on the field and the ball is getting thrown, he's running a route. Like there's just not that trust there. And so if you kind of read between the lines, you sort of see that it's just hard for me to imagine him coming in and like stealing a bunch of carries from James Cook this year. Maybe I'm wrong, but I also think that Todd Monken's a good enough offensive coordinator to use his talents in other ways. Cause like in the bowl game, he had 5 catches on 5 targets, and the last catch that he had was the one that got Georgia into field goal range for the win. So he's a really good player, and he's really talented with the ball in his hands. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to hang him out to dry or
I know
anything.
exactly. We're being kind of negative because we're truly blessed. I mean, when you got McIntosh, who is somewhere between the second and fourth guy on your roster, and we're really picking him apart. And he's just a kid, and he's going to get a lot better. So
Yeah, totally. I mean, we're not trying to like dog on him or anything. It's just we're trying to, I think, make the argument for why we believe the guys are going
Zamir
to see
White,
carries. Yeah,
right?
Zamir and
Exactly.
James Cook.
And this time next year, hopefully, we'll be, touting some great numbers for McIntosh and Milton and talking about how they're the guys that are going to lead the way. So, but I think I'm 100% on board with you that it's Zamir's room. He's the guy. Zamir and Cook are the guys. And I know that everyone likes, you and I were talking prep, the most popular guy on their team is often the backup quarterback and maybe the backup running back for Georgia fans. But we're loaded. We really are, and I'm excited to see them. And I think they're all going to improve.
Right, totally. And it's also I think there's a lot of folks in any fan base, and I think I can be guilty of it too, that you get really enamored by the recruiting rankings of someone coming in, and you don't always kind of take that question to like really ask yourself, okay, how is the skill set going to translate, or is this really going to work in different situations? It's just like, this kid's a 5-star. He's the new guy in town. His high school tape is incredible. I want to watch him run. So he's ready to play in the SEC, day one. And that's not normally the case.
He's the next Jasper Sanks. All right. I'm going to show one last thing before we wrap it up and talk about G-Day and stuff. But no,
hold on.
Let me just put this stat. I got the stat up here with the SEC running backs. But go ahead. Continue.
Yeah, while you put that up, I want to talk about Daijun Edwards because I do think that, like, he doesn't get talked about like the other 4 backs. And, even us, we were just sitting here talking about, McIntosh and Milton versus kind of Cook and White. But his advanced statistics and his film and his performance and everything is extremely impressive. He led Georgia in yards after contact per rush attempt last year. And he's shown that willingness to run between the tackles. And like, he might not have that highlight kind of breakaway speed, but he has incredible balance and a very low center of gravity and just kind of bounces off, dude. So point being, like, as much as we've talked about kind of collectively as a fan base this offseason, whether or not McIntosh or Milton are going to steal carries from Zamir and Cook, I feel like we should also be talking about, like, is Dijuan Edwards going to steal carries from McIntosh and Milton, because he has shown himself to be a very capable ball carrier.
Yeah, I didn't mean to. I'm guilty. I just blew right past Dijuan Edwards. My bad.
There we go. No,
my bad. No, I wanted to talk about and kind of put the point on it with White, because I'm showing. Oops, still picture in picture off. Okay, so no, that's not the one. But hang on, bear with me. Here it is. This is the SEC 2020 SEC running backs, and this is 50 plus carries and sorted by EPA. And you can see that Kevin Harris and Najee Harris, Tank Bigsby were the only SEC running backs that had higher EPA averages than Zamir White. And they all had they had a little bit more yards per carry, but I mean, they've got more carries. And I guarantee you some of these, Najee Harris especially, were in that garbage time area where, the defense is broken, the lead's intact, and he's obviously a great back. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, Zamir had a much tougher and, honestly wasn't the workhorse back. I mean, he's getting 50 less carries. And so Zamir White is explosive. Zamir White is trustworthy, and he is an incredible back and get high carry, great EPA, can show you explosiveness. And like you said, I think you mentioned in a tweet, he's probably just now getting 100% at the end of end of the season last year from his injuries. So, and with the weird COVID year, I mean, I'm sure that it upset sort of the routine and stuff. So I think Zamir White is just ready to go. And I don't know if we're going to see him much on G-Day. I don't think he's got anything to prove. So don't be surprised if we don't see Zamir White and we see these other guys, just for the reasons we talked about. They need carries and they need snaps and all that sort of stuff. So I bet you if we don't see Zamir White or James Cook that much, that means that's going to be a sign to me that those guys are, he named JT the starter, but by not playing Zamir and James on G-Day on Saturday, that probably is telling us those guys are the guys. So
yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll see him get some reps or whatever, but I mean, I think from that younger group that we've talked about of Edwards, McIntosh, and Milton, and I know this is boring and people get kind of pissed off when I talk about it, and I've had people like fight with me on Twitter about it because they don't understand football, I guess. But sorry, that's rude, but that is kind of how I feel sometimes. If you want to like know who is gonna be that number 3 back or that guy that's gonna like challenge for number 2, then on Saturday at G-Day, pay attention to who does the best job in pass blocking, because that's going to be the guy that can stay on the field in any situation. So not to beat a dead horse, but I just beat a dead horse. So let's talk.
The running back that can block on 3rd and 6 or run the ball on 3rd and 6 is going to get more carries, just like the linebacker that can cover on 3rd downs and can rush the passer. I mean, that's what you want. You want the 3 down guys, the guys that don't make mistakes, that aren't, a liability on any down. And I think Zamir is that guy.
Yeah, 100%. And to piggyback off that thought and take it a step further, I mean, at this point with McIntosh, if I'm a defensive coordinator and I see him come onto the field, that's telling me something from a tendency standpoint, because I know that he's not trusted as a pass blocker. So it's like Georgia's going to have to break some of those tendencies from a personnel standpoint to keep that element of surprise. And if you have Cook and White in the game on 3rd down, they could block. Cook could take a little angle route for a touchdown like he did against Missouri. He might go in motion and run a slant or a go route like he did against Alabama. So it's just like there's just a lot more variables that a defense has to think about. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how they've tried to develop McIntosh this offseason and what the level of awareness around that is in that offensive room in Athens.
All right. Well, pivoting off of the running back discussion, did you want to go Spencer Hall, or did you want to go some spring thoughts? Which way you want to
go? Yeah, what are you excited about for G-Day?
What am I excited about for G-Day?
Looking forward to?
I'm excited. I mean, this is how far I've come as just a fan who would always want to look at the skill position players. I want to see left guard. I want to see because Kirby and his Coach Smart after his press conference from Saturday's scrimmage talked about all the guys that are moving around. He's got 5 guys that are moving all around and stuff. But he said he was really high on Xavier Truss, but he also talked about Mims. He talked about Ratledge, and those guys. I think Ratledge may be playing more at right guard, but he said they're all getting snaps at left. So I want to see Tate. I want to see if hopefully get to see Mims, and I want to see some of maybe McIntosh running behind, not McIntosh because he won't be playing, but Milton running behind those guys. So I'm excited to see that.
Totally. No, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the 2 areas, like the offensive line and the secondary should be the 2 kind of areas of concern or scrutiny that we as fans are looking at and seeing. Does this look like a team that's ready to go and play Clemson? And the answer is probably going to be no, and no one should panic over that because there's a long time between now and then. But yeah, I'm with you on the O-line. Truthfully, I thought Xavier Truss struggled mightily in that Cincinnati game. He had a really hard time against AAC defensive end. So I worry about him kind of potentially being that answer at tackle. So I would like to see some improvement from him, or potentially, some of Broderick Jones and some of these other guys. I think Amarius Mims is like so talented that he may, end up playing right tackle pretty quickly in the season as a starter. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of how this all shakes out. And I feel like Ratledge is going to be like that next, like Ben Cleveland, Cade Mays type, where he's just like in the game all the time at different positions and mauling dudes. And he kind of has the same sort of like mold as those guys, I guess. But yeah, secondary, I think truthfully is more my concern than the offensive line, just because of the we know how well we've recruited on the offensive line. Like I just have faith that like 5 of those guys are gonna come together and it's gonna be fine. But in the secondary, other than the safety positions, like we don't know anything. And I'm really excited to see Keely Ringo for the first time. We haven't seen him at all.
Yeah, definitely want to see the secondary. And, Kirby said that listened to the press conference, and shout out to Bulldog Illustrated because they put them all up. A lot of the guys do, but they put them up real quick. And I listened to him on my ride home and stuff. And he's been realistic, and he sings praises, but he's not saying these guys are ready. They got to go, blah, blah, blah. But, he said they're getting better and they keep trying, and they're not making the same mistakes or regressing. He said they're getting better. And that's what he said on Saturdays. There's no regression, which is probably, about the nicest thing you're going to get out of coach on a post scrimmage press conference. So I expect to see some plays, and I expect to see some blown plays on the secondary, but we got a lot of talent, and that just means their offense is getting over on them. So there's nothing wrong with watching Darnell, beat somebody on the corner. There's, I got no problem.
Exactly. Totally. I'm with you there. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, I think, I don't know. I just, do you sort of get the feeling from like some of Kirby's media availability this spring that he kind of is not trying to flaunt it, but well, I mean, yeah, we know he hates the media, but like, do you get the feeling that he kind of feels really good about the hand that he's holding going into next season? Cause like, I get that vibe sometimes that he's
I don't get that vibe at all. He's more Munsoning than anything, but I mean,
I know. I mean, like he does that. Don't get me wrong, but like I just feel like there's a little different air that I can't quite put my finger on, and maybe it's having a quarterback that's entrenched that he trusts or something like that. But it's just there seems to be a little more confidence. Like I don't know. I feel like there's a little air around the program right now that kind of instead of that like scrappy challenger, there's a little more sense of like we're hungry and we're working very hard, but we know what we're doing and we belong here and we deserve this hype.
I think I definitely, maybe not from the guys' press conferences on their availability, I definitely get that feeling that they know they're talented. They know they've got everything in place, and it's about staying focused, and and that's definitely, they're doing a lot of coach speak or what the coaches want them to say and stuff. But I do feel like that. Yeah, it's an arrogance, not arrogance. It's not the wrong word, but a confidence that they want to get out there and prove it because they know they can.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's kind of my vibe. Anything else to say about G-Day?
I wish I could be there, but work and stuff. I really wanted to go over there and do a show and just sort of kind of catch up with some folks and see if they wanted to after they left the stadium. But I got a soccer tournament for my son, and just late work Friday, so I'm just gonna be watching it on the YouTube. And we should do. We got to figure out something fun to do. I can live tweet the stuff. I think it's going to be harder for people to watch because it's going to be streaming and not on the broadcast channel. So I'm actually, well,
yeah, that's right.
I'm looking forward to bringing it to you guys, and some plays and stuff. And, hopefully ESPN won't sue me for, copyright, and I'll just put out some plays so we can enjoy it and tweet and talk about them in the comments. So on that note, be sure you're following at Dawg_stats. And that's me, and Graham is at Dawg Out West. I God only believe that you got to be following us if you're watching 32 minutes into the show, but there it is. There's our Twitter handles.
I mean, you're probably smart not to. I'm just kidding. So before we go, yeah, and Josh, you're really good at doing that. I mean, I think during the pandemic last year, we did like some live retweeting and play tweeting from the 2019 Georgia Florida game, and I feel like that was like a weird night on Twitter where a bunch of people just got like excited to talk about Georgia football instead of all the miserable stuff that was going on around that time last year. So it's always fun to kind of have those moments where everyone sort of gathers on Twitter around Georgia.
Oh yeah, I love the Twitter. I love it. There's a lot of crap on there, but I think there's a great collection of people that follow us and that we follow, and and it's a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to having some fun on Saturday and then getting ready for the season.
100%. So before we go, we here at Dawg Sports Live and Dawg Sports in general, the larger website, we are all about anything that we can do to kind of use the platform that we have, however small it is, to try and help other folks. As many of you are familiar with the website, Every Day Should Be Saturday, EDSBS, which is sadly enough no longer in existence, but still are doing their every year charity bowl, which helps New American Pathways, which is an Atlanta-based nonprofit organization that exists to take care of and help out the refugees come into the United States. And so the thing that's beautiful about the EDSBS Charity Bowl is that it allows college football fans to basically like harness their spite and hatred for something positive. So a lot of times folks will, like Spencer Hall, the founder of EDSBS, who joined us on the show before the Florida game last year. He donated $44.28 to memorialize the Florida win over Georgia this past season. So it's always kind of fun to throw some darts. I think Nathan made a donation to remind Auburn fans how long it's been since the last time they won a game in Athens. But yeah, I put out a little Twitter poll today of everyone's trying to get everyone's favorite win over Georgia Tech. And so a little history is that Georgia Tech traditionally dominates. They're one of the dominant forces in the EDSBS Charity Bowl. Michigan has won every one that's ever happened for, I believe, 13 years now. But Georgia Tech is usually a consistent second. And after today, they are second in the standings. But surprisingly, Georgia is number 4, which would be our greatest showing ever. So if you have the ability and the means to donate a little money, it can be $41.00 for the 2017 Tennessee game. It can be whatever you want it to be. I did ask on Twitter today what everyone's favorite Georgia win over Georgia Tech was, because since Georgia Tech, this is like the one thing they consistently beat us in, is the Charity Bowl. I'm trying to really garner up some support to see if the Dogs can pull through. The winner by a solid margin of that poll was the 2002 game, Georgia 51, Georgia Tech 7. So because of all of you, I will be donating $51.07 to the Charity Bowl. But yeah, more importantly than that would be if any or all of you can donate a little bit yourselves, even if it's, $1, $5, anything helps. Anything goes a long way to help these people. So that's my soapbox and my spiel. And unless you have anything else to add, take us out, Josh.
I don't. I was trying to type up a graphic and put it on there, but I didn't do it in time, so I'll get better at that. But no, I'm looking forward to G-Day. Please follow us on Twitter. Please tell your friends about us. We're going to be uploading this on YouTube. There's a podcast. If you want to listen to this, which you probably already will listen to it, but you might catch the next one on your commute into work or whatever. So we're just trying to put out some good content, and we've talked about it a bunch. We're trying to expand it. So give us some ideas on maybe some things we can do. And as always, Graham, thank you for all the hard work that you did getting us ready. If this is one of your first or second shows, we've done every position group. So go find it on the YouTube channel, and go get yourself ready, familiarize yourself with some new names, and refresh your memory on the guys that were there with us last year making some plays. I enjoyed it, and that's all I got. Go Dogs!
I enjoyed it too. Sorry, yeah. No, we'll definitely be back, this weekend or next week with lots of G-Day fodder to chew on, and I just wanted to mention because I forgot that if you do want to donate to the EDSBS charity ball, the link is on dogsports.com. So check it out there. Yeah, this has been Dog Sports Live. That has been Josh Answer. You can find him at dog_stats on Twitter. I am Graham Coffee. You can find me at Dog Out West on Twitter and dogsports.com. And we really, really appreciate you joining us for the show. And we hope to see you very, very soon. Have a great night.